On April 13, 1919, thousands of unarmed Indians gathered to celebrate the Baisakhi festival. High above them, a British biplane circled, carefully scouting the dense crowds below. The people had gathered in the Jallianwala Bagh, a 6.5-acre public garden. It was surrounded on all sides by tall brick walls, and the only way in or out was a notoriously narrow passageway. Suddenly, Brigadier General Reginald Dyer arrived with 90 armed soldiers. They marched directly into that alleyway, deliberately blocking the only escape route. Dyer's tactical positioning turned the enclosed garden into a kill zone, moving the operation past crowd control into a deliberate military ambush. To understand how the British military reached this point, we have to rewind a few weeks. The First World War had just ended, and the British administration had passed the Rowlatt Act, a strict law allowing them to arrest and jail Indians without a trial or any evidence. In response, Mahatma Gandhi organized peaceful nationwide strikes called hartals, where businesses closed and entire cities came to a quiet standstill. But the British establishment was deeply unsettled by something else entirely. In Punjab, Hindus and Muslims were marching side by side in massive numbers. For the colonial rulers, this unity raised the terrifying specter of another widespread rebellion, much like the one they barely survived in 1857. Driven by panic, the administration arrested local leaders. This move backfired immediately, sparking the exact riots and property destruction the British had hoped to prevent. With the region destabilized, the government imposed martial law and sent Brigadier General Reginald Dyer into Amritsar with a clear mandate: crush dissent and restore total dominance. Dyer entered Amritsar as an enforcer, primed by a colonial administration that viewed any Indian assembly as the catalyst for a second revolution. When Dyer assembled his strike force, he specifically selected Gurkha and Baluch soldiers. He knew these troops were outsiders to Punjab, severely reducing the chance they would feel any local sympathy for the crowds. He originally brought 2 armored vehicles equipped with machine guns, but because the alley leading into the Jallianwala Bagh was so tight, the vehicles couldn't fit, forcing Dyer to leave them behind. Once inside, Dyer issued no warnings. He gave no orders to disperse. He commanded his men to fire, unleashing a relentless barrage of 1,650 rounds over the course of 10 agonizing minutes. Looking at this vector map of the Jallianwala Bagh, we can see exactly how the attack unfolded. Dyer stood by the only exit, directly ordering his troops to continuously reload and redirect their fire into the densest pockets of the fleeing crowd. Because the garden was entirely surrounded by high walls, escape was impossible. Frantic civilians scattered, only to be compressed into a lethal crush of bodies, desperately trying to scale the sheer brick. In pure desperation, many people jumped into the garden's central well to escape the bullets. Over 120 individuals ultimately suffocated or were crushed inside it. The violence stopped only when the soldiers began to run low on ammunition. Dyer ordered a halt, turned his troops around, and marched away, leaving thousands of people bleeding in the dirt. In under 10 minutes, the British military reduced a celebratory gathering to an inescapable execution yard. The cruelty extended deep into the night. Under the strict curfew rules of martial law, the city's water and electricity were cut off, and anyone caught providing medical aid to the wounded would be shot. A local woman named Ratan Devi spent the entire pitch-black night sitting in the blood-soaked dirt of the bog. She sat beside the lifeless body of her husband, fending off wild dogs and jackals with a heavy wooden stick. This chart reveals the immediate institutional cover-up, led by Punjab's governor, Michael O'Dwyer. The official British tally claimed 379 dead, while actual Indian estimates confirmed well over 1,000 casualties, exposing the massive scale of the colonial lie. When called before an inquiry commission, Dyer showed absolute zero remorse. He was dismissed from his post, but upon returning to the UK, he was financially rewarded by sympathizers and hailed by many as a hero who saved India. The British Empire's political and financial defense of this slaughter proved definitively to millions of Indians that colonial justice was a complete illusion. The fallout was immediate. Disgusted by the lack of accountability, India's intellectual and political leaders began severing their ties and returning their official honors to the British Crown. Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore returned his British knighthood, writing a scathing letter to the viceroy as a profound symbol of moral rejection. Meanwhile, Mahatma Gandhi shifted his entire strategy. He stopped protesting single laws and launched the non-cooperation movement, shifting the nation's goal from partial self-governance to absolute independence. The massacre also forged a parallel path of radical vengeance. Young survivors, including a 12-year-old Bhagat Singh and another boy named Sardar Udham Singh, visited the bog to collect the blood-soaked soil, swearing a fierce oath to strike back at the empire. 21 years later, in 1940, Udham Singh fulfilled that childhood vow. He tracked down Michael O'Dwyer to Caxton Hall in London and assassinated the architect of the massacre, right in the heart of the British capital. The memory of the massacre remained a potent force for decades, fueling the strikes and the radical acts that made the subcontinent ungovernable. By 1947, the British were leaving an India they had lost the moral right to rule on that April evening in Amritsar.